If you're one of these parents who struggle with the behavior of your child, this video is for you. I often receive questions from parents, either face-to-face or sometimes via email, via Instagram DMs. What shall I do with my child? I feel really bad because their behavior is so poor. My child is naughty, my child is bad. Tell me what to do. I've tried this and that, various strategies, and it doesn't seem to be working. And there is so much to be said about that, and I think that this video is particularly useful for parents of children between 0 and 6, 7, but of course all these foundations are the same for whether your children are teenagers or even if they are beyond teenager age. The first and most important thing is to isolate the behavior from the personality of the child. There is no such a thing as a bad child. When we label someone as bad, as naughty, as inconsiderate, we are not making them a favor. In fact, in time, this is embedded in their personality and they start thinking about themselves as the child who is bad, lazy. They're already labeled, and if in any way or case in your life want to label a child, you'd rather label them with something positive. We would rather label them with something that they're such a good human, such a kind person, but never with anything negative. And I know that that's hard because it's so much embedded in our language and our use of language, but what I always say to parents is that the minute you know you're pregnant, hopefully people will do it before that, become very conscious of the language you use. It's important that you, even if they say I'm naughty or I'm bad, you say, oh, there is no such a thing as a bad person. We all do good things or bad things, but it doesn't make us good or bad inherently. And you can use that and extend it towards animals or every time when you talk about other people in front of your child. So forget about your child being bad. This is just the behavior they display, and you have to isolate the behavior from their identity and personality. The second thing is you have to change your perspective. When you realize that when a child acts out, when they're biting, scratching, hitting, shouting, when they are in the midst of a tantrum, the reason why they do that is a cry for help. They're going for a very rapid emotional development. Their brain goes from very rapid transformation in this age, and for them they're testing boundaries, and from them it's really important to learn how to express their emotions, and they don't know how to. And our role as parents is to create this safe environment where they will be able to be who they are, and they will be able to burst into tears, or they will be able to express what they don't know how to express yet in a safe environment. When you change your perspective, knowing that my child is not doing that because they're mean or they have been displaying bad behavior, but because they're crying for help, they don't know how to deal with their emotions. Intellectually they understand something, but emotionally they're not there. Then I am here to help them, and it's my role to help. It's not done for me personally. They're not trying to trigger me. They're not doing that on purpose so that I can suffer. They're just being them, and they're looking for answers from me. They're looking for guidance for how I can help them express their feelings. I would even suggest that you don't use the word bad or naughty in any ways, in the sense of even to describe behavior. There is something as hurtful behavior or inconsiderate behavior, but this is usually very spontaneous, and a child shows it out and acts it out when they don't know what else to do. Once you change your perspective and you realize that your child is not making anything bad, they're just learning, that would help you to have a much more appropriate reaction to the way they act. So now what you can do, the most important thing is to find out the reason why your child acts out and when. How you can do that is through observation. You have to step back and observe as objectively as possible, despite the fact that it's your child, despite the fact that they're going to trigger you, despite the fact that you may be frustrated and you may be feeling really angry at the moment. Just make this space that you can sit back and observe and find out patterns. What is it that triggers your child behavior? Does it happen in particular time of the day? Is it because they're hungry? Is it prior bedtime? Is it immediately when they wake up? Is it because they may be overstimulated, too much screen time? Is it because they're understimulated? Is it because you give far too much attention to a sibling, or you're busy and not emotionally available? There is always a reason why a child would act in a certain way. And in order for you to be strategically right in the new method that you use to help them go through this period of time, you have to know what is triggering these emotions. The best way to know it, sit down, observe, don't think about other people around you. Think about how, even if the situation is happening somewhere outside where there are other children, other people in the middle of the school or in the middle of a shop, don't think about the reaction of other people. Just observe and think about your own reaction and what you're showing to your child in this particular moment. Second one is the language. When a child does something, we have to check out with us, first of all, how do we feel about and how do we respond to the situation from a centered and balanced place, which again, I know it's very, very hard because we are already triggered. However, it's important that we stand back a bit and then we try to answer from a very centered place. And there are certain phrases you can use. One of the phrases that we borrow at my school, and I borrowed it among my friends because Mika is now a little bit older, is instead of saying no, kind hands, keep your hands for yourself, is to say, I cannot let you do that because, and then you give explanation why you cannot let them do that. We borrowed that from Janet Lansbury. I highly recommend her resources as well for respectful parenting. And the reason why you do that is that you're explaining to a child, I cannot let you do that because of certain reasons, and he understands that there are consequences from their actions. For example, instead of saying, no, you cannot scratch right now, you say, I cannot let you scratch because this is going to hurt your friend. I cannot let you throw this train because it's going to break and may hurt someone. I cannot let you cross the street right now because you can be hit by a car. I cannot let you stay in the bathroom, in the bath for 1 more hour because it's not good for your skin, or I don't have the time right now. When you explain to your child, regardless of their age, try to learn to explain to them, even from the time when they're babies, they would understand that there are consequences to their action. It's important also not to punish your child. A lot of parents still believe in the punishment. I've personally never believed in that. I never used it with my child. We don't use it in our school. And I think that punishment actually has the opposite effect of what we expect it to have. When we punish a child, we are depriving them from something temporary to inflict pain on them, rather than showing the natural consequences of their action. Punishment by sending them to timeout to think through, or restricting them from our affection and love, is teaching them nothing of the matter of why their behavior was such. You don't want your child to be doing things because you're telling them to be doing things. You want them to do things because inherently they know what's right and what's wrong. Of course, all this is based on the premises that children come naturally good, and I very much believe so, that every human being shows up on this planet inherently good, with good desires to be part of the society in a good way. And these periods of hurtful behavior towards someone are usually spontaneous, momentary factors, and of course they're highly influenced by the school environment and the home environment as well. So no punishment, no spanking, no timeout, no physical restraint, no deprivation of affection and love. Children basically need more love at these difficult for them times when their brain is bursting through such an emotional turmoil. Next one is be careful of when do you give attention to your child. Quite often children may act out in a certain way because they're looking for your adult's attention. And unfortunately, because we live in such stressful times, parents tend to give more attention when something negative happens versus when something positive happens. When you have at home a child that is acting in a certain way, you want to influence this behavior and to change it, best thing to do is to always focus on the positive things that they do, and this is where your focus and attention goes, and not pay that much attention when they are showing negative behavior. One more thing is to always remember that you are a role model. We tend to forget that children pick up everything we say, everything we do. How do we respond to situations? How do we respond to other people? Most importantly, how do we respond to stress? If we get really stressed and anxious and triggered by something that's going on and our emotional response is not great, how can we expect to teach our children to have a better emotional responses themselves? I so often see parents who lost it completely and who are themselves in the middle of the tantrum, and they expect their children to hold themselves to a much better and central position. It's not going to work out. It doesn't work like that. We are the role models 100% all the time at home. They're particularly watching us. How do we act in stressful situations? And also, how do we act when they're doing something which triggers our own stuff? So if a child, for example, reacts in a poorly way or is scratching or biting and we lose it completely, children feel more lost themselves, because for them, we are their leaders. We are the captain of the ship. We are the people who are in control. And at the same time, we show that we don't know what to do and we lost it completely. So for them, it triggers their own feelings of unsafety. And last thing, which I think it's important, and we tend to forget that, ask yourself often the question, when you respond to your child in a certain situation, do you respond the same way when you're at home versus when you're in front of other people? Does your parenting style changes when there are other people around you? Because what happens is that we are so much taught that what other people think of us or of our child is more important than even our own opinion of ourselves. We tend to act and react in a certain way when people are around us so that we can gain their approval. We may not feel that this situation requires us to punish our child or to say these things that we are saying, but because we are watched out in the shop or on the playground or at school or from our friends, we tend to overreact quite often, and that can give a very confusing message to your child. At home, certain situation, you act in certain way. Outside, in front of other people, you react in a different way. Be very, very careful of this one. It doesn't really matter. Most importantly, it doesn't really matter what other people think that much. It matters how you show this consistent love, care, understanding to your child at all time, regardless whether they're outside or inside. And lastly, before I finish, I can only say that we all do mistakes. Don't beat yourself up if you go through the day and you sometimes shout to your child or you don't act in an appropriate way. You can always say, I'm sorry as well. The most important thing is that consistently, overall, we do more of the good than of the poor behavior that we don't want to see. We all make mistakes. We are never perfect. I feel that those of us who think that we can be perfect parents actually make it worse for their children, and they don't expect us to be perfect in any ways. I hope this video helped you guys. If you so, please share it with your friends, give me a thumb up, subscribe for my channel, and I'm always looking forward to read your comments and share your experience in the comment box below. Thank you.
So the school system, they have uniforms and